Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to look at market structure. We are going to look at the firm, the industry. So essentially what we are going to do is we are going to define what a firm is and how a firm is related to an industry. Then we'll look at market structure. We'll go on to look at perfect competition, then monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and finally monopoly. And I should mention from the outset that what we are looking at today is just a summary of market structure. So we are not going into details per se, but I'm just giving you an overview so that you just have an eagle's eye of what market structure is. So I hope we are following. Let's look at the firm and industry. An industry is defined as a group of firms which produce close substitutes. So a group of firms producing close substitutes is what is referred to as an industry. Then we need to understand that an industry is made up of a number of firms. And we need to understand that there are so many firms in an industry, and the number depends on the nature of the industry that you're talking about. Now, we need to also know that an industry somehow affects the behavior of firms when it comes to their price and output decisions. So the nature of the industry itself will determine how the firms within that particular industry will behave when it comes to their policy decisions, okay? When it comes to the prices that they charge and the amount of goods and services that they produce. So all those things somehow are related to the nature of the industry in which those firms are located. Let's define market structure. A market structure essentially depicts how firms are differentiated and categorized. So in this sense, we are going to have a number of market structures. Now, each of those market structures will give us an idea as to how the firms within that particular industry are differentiated and categorized. So based on the types of goods they sell and how their operations are affected by external factors. So that is the basis of the differentiation and categorization, okay? So it all depends on the types of goods that are sold by the different firms that are located within a particular industry and how their operations are affected by external factors. So this makes it easier to understand the characteristics of diverse markets or different markets. So if you have the information as to how the industries, or rather the firms within a particular industry behave, then those are going to give you an idea of how the firms can actually be differentiated and categorized. Okay? Then it is also possible, through that knowledge that you have, to understand the characteristics of the different markets that are there. Let's look at perfect competition, which is the first market structure. Now, in a perfectly competitive industry or market structure, you have a large number of firms that produce identical products. And then the other thing that you need to understand is that there are no barriers to entry into the industry. Okay? So that is perfect competition. The first characteristics, or the first identifying mark of perfect competition, is that you're going to have a number of firms that produce identical, or sometimes referred to as homogeneous products. And then there are also no barriers to entry into the industry. And there are also no barriers actually to exit out of that particular industry. You can enter the industry and exit at any time. So that is one of the distinguishing features of perfect competition. Let's look at monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition is characterized by a large number of firms in competition with each other. So just like for perfect competition, even when we talk about monopolistic competition, you're going to have a large number of firms. These firms compete with each other. Each firm produces a similar but non-identical product. Okay? So whereas under perfect competition, you have products that are similar being produced by the different firms located in an industry. That is to say, the products are homogeneous. In monopolistic competition, each firm will produce a similar but non-identical product. So the products are similar, but they are not identical. Okay? So they may be similar in terms of the functions that they perform. That is to say, there may be substitutes, but then these products might be differentiated to a certain degree. Okay? So because of that element that allows for differentiation, then we have products that are similar but non-identical. So such a market structure is referred to as monopolistic competition. Then we also have what is referred to as oligopoly. Oligopoly. In oligopoly, you have a small number of large firms. So the firms that you have aren't that many. It's just a small number, but these firms are actually relatively large compared to monopolistic competition and perfect competition. So that is the major difference which is there. The firms are large, but the number of firms within an industry is small. So each firm recognizes that the actions and reactions of the other large firms can have serious implications. In other words, the firms that are located within an industry, that is oligopoly, they tend to be sort of interdependent. It's like even as they come up with their own policies, even as they increase the prices, even as they produce the goods and services, whatever service or whatever products they produce, they always do so with an eye on what other firms within that particular industry or within that particular market structure are doing. Okay? So in that sense, you need to understand that the firm's actions are likely to impact other firms within that particular industry. So there is some kind of interdependence between the firms that are located within an industry or within a market structure. Let's go on to look at monopoly. In monopoly, you're talking about a structure in which the firm is an industry. So, in essence, what we are saying is that under monopoly, you just have one firm in an industry. So essentially, that firm is also the industry. So the situation is maintained through the imposition of barriers to entry of new firms. So one of the distinguishing features of monopoly is that it tends to have high barriers to entry. So what that implies is that it's not possible for other firms to enter the industry. So it does maintain high barriers to entry so that it remains the only firm within that particular industry. So essentially, monopoly does not have competitors. So this market structure doesn't have any competitors because you just have one firm operating within that particular industry. Okay? I hope we are following. Now let's look at how market structures are classified. It's important that we understand how market structures are classified. The first criterion is that the number of firms in an industry that supply the product. Okay? So you're looking at the number of firms. How many firms are there in this particular industry that supply this particular product? So the number itself will give you an idea or a clue as to how you're going to classify a particular market structure. Then the next criterion is the extent to which a firm has control over the price. To what extent is this particular firm have control over the price? That is another thing that you need to watch out for, even as you are classifying a market structure. The third one is the extent to which firms in an industry produce standardized or identical products. So, you look at the nature of the products. Are they standardized or rather identical, or are they homogeneous? Are they the same or different? That is another criterion. Then the fourth one is the ease with which firms can enter the industry. How easy is it for a firm to enter the industry? That is another criterion. Like I mentioned, I'm sure I did allude to the fact that under monopoly, there are high barriers to entry. So it's not easy for industry, or for a firm rather, to enter that particular market structure or industry. Okay? That is why you find that there's only one firm in a monopolistic or in a monopoly market structure, because it's not easy for other firms to enter that particular industry or market structure. And the third, or rather the fifth criterion is the extent to which firms compete on the basis of advertising and differences in product characteristics rather than the price. How is the competition like among the firms within that particular industry? Okay, so how do they compete on the basis of advertising and the differences in product characteristics? So we are looking at non-price competition among the firms within an industry. So these are the criteria that are used when you want to classify a particular industry or a particular market structure. I hope we're following. We are continuing with our presentation. So here's a summary of what we've just covered. Basically, what we are going to look at the market structures that we just looked at. And then we need to know that we have the topmost row, which talks about market structure. And then there are examples. And of course, the criteria is given in this column, as you can see. So the first market structure that we are going to look at is perfect competition. Now, the example that we can give of perfect competition are parts of agriculture. Like if we talk about poultry business, or we may talk about those that are involved in the production of vegetables, or just crops generally. Of course, we know crops are just homogeneous. It doesn't matter who cultivated the crop, but as long as they are of the same kind, like maybe if it's beans, if it's sweet potatoes, we talk about groundnuts, it doesn't matter who is selling. As long as they're the same type, then they will be homogeneous. Okay, so those are supposed to fall under perfect competition. The number of suppliers or producers are usually many. I'm sure we're aware of that. And then the types of products, of course, they are standardized. That is to say, they are homogeneous. They are the same. The power of the firm over the price, it doesn't have any power over the price, so there is none. Now, we need to understand that under perfect competition, the prices are determined by the market forces of supply and demand. So the price will be set or will be dictated at the industrial level, and then each of the firms will be free to sell at that particular price. I'm sure we know that. Then the barriers to entry in perfect competition are very low actually. So any firm is free to enter and leave the industry at any time. Non-price competition, there is none. So we're talking about a kind of competition where there is advertising and product differentiation. So such kind of competition is not there under perfect competition. Let's move on to monopolistic competition. The example given is that of chain stores, like we talk about ShopRite. Those are supposed to fall under monopolistic competition. The number of suppliers or producers are usually many. The types of products or services, they're differentiated. So under perfect competition, we know the types of products are standardized or they are homogeneous. Under monopolistic, we've just been told that they are differentiated. So meaning they may be of the same type, but then there are slight differences in terms of things like, for instance, packaging. If we talk about maybe the perfume that is being used, like if we talk about soaps, okay, they may be different. The colors, okay. So there are those variations that are there. So because of that, you find that the products cannot be regarded as homogeneous, but they are rather differentiated. The power of the firm of the price. The firm has got some slight control over the price in the sense that through the differentiation of products, you'll find that even the prices will be differing, okay? Because there will be that emerging difference due to advertising, okay? So customers will be willing to buy a particular brand because of certain characteristics that they look for, okay? So though basically the products may be the same, but they'll be different. And that difference is what accounts for the differences in the prices. Then of course the kind of competition that is there, that is non-price competition, is advertising and product differentiation. Under oligopoly, the examples we can give are mining, steel, building materials, and the like. So the example we can give is that of Chilanga Cement or Lafarge. We can even give an example of telecoms industry, where we talk about companies like CLZ, we talk about Airtel, we talk about MTN. There are only 3 of them. So those qualify to fall under oligopoly, because if we talk about the number of suppliers or producers, we find that they're actually few. Okay? Services are standardized or differentiated. Okay? So that is under oligopoly. Then the power of the firm over the price, to some extent they have control over the price. Because just like under monopolistic competition, under oligopoly, it's not just the market forces that determine the prices. Okay? It's not the market forces of supply and demand. The firms have a hand in how much they're going to charge for the products that they produce. Barriers to entry are quite high. And the non-price competition is still advertising and product differentiation. That is under oligopoly. So those are some of the identifying marks of oligopoly. Let's go to the last market structure, which is monopoly. Give an example of public utilities. For instance, if we talk about ZESCO, if we talk about, ZESCO essentially, okay? So the number of suppliers or producers are just 1. We know when we talk about monopoly, you have a single firm that is in the industry, okay? So the firm itself is the industry. So there are no competitors, okay? Since you just have one firm within an industry. Then the type of product or services that are produced are unique, okay? So it's a product which you can't get anywhere else. So that happens to be the only firm that can supply you with such a product. The power of the firm over the price, considerable. Okay? So a firm has got a very big influence over the price. That's why you find that usually when you talk about monopolies, some government usually comes in to control the activities of monopoly. And even for oligopoly, it's the same. And by the way, we talk about oligopoly, you find that sometimes firms may collude so that they may increase the prices. So usually there are certain laws that are enacted to guard against that. The laws that are referred to as antitrust laws, so that firms do not collude and increase the prices, because they want the prices to be competitive, so that if you've got a number of firms that are producing and then the firms are competing among each other, then you're going to have a competitive price. Of course, I'm talking about oligopoly. Okay? So let's go back to monopoly. Like I said, it's got considerable control over the price, but then the government usually comes in to control how much the firm is going to charge. Barriers to entry are very high. And when we talk about barriers, we've got natural barriers, we've got financial barriers, and a lot of other barriers. But you need to understand that these are some of the things that will prevent other firms from entering the industry. So usually for monopoly, the barriers are very high. Non-price competition manifests itself in the form of advertising. So these are the characteristics of the various market structures that we just discussed. I hope we understand the differences between these market structures, and I hope to meet you in the next lecture. Bye.